All right, here we are. We're back again with Captain Marty here. He's going to tell us another one of his fantastic stories. And I'll tell you, the last few that he has told have been nothing shy of epic. Great stories, the way that they have been told, the way he weaves them all together. And I mean, painting the picture of them in the mind is what's important here, Marty. And you do a fantastic job of it. So why wait? Captain Marty, what have you got for us today?
You know, I tell you what, Justin, this is one of my very favorites. I have a lot. This is in the top 5 for sure.
Okay.
But if you can't tell a story that embarrasses yourself about yourself, you shouldn't be telling stories. You know, and this one is about just that. And I'll be right back.
Red Drum Tackle in Buxton is the oldest complete tackle shop at Cape Hatteras. And being the closest tackle shop to Cape Point, Red Drum Tackle has been welcoming fishermen to Hatteras Island with a wide selection of bait and tackle, skilled custom rod builds, rod and reel repair, expert knowledge and information since 1974. Red Drum Tackle knows how, when, and where to fish. To acquire this fishing brain power, visit them online at reddrumtackle.com. Red Drum Tackle, the oldest complete tackle shop at Cape Hatteras and the closest to Cape Point in Buxton.
When it comes to general maintenance or major modifications on your diesel vehicle, look no further than Juan Cheese Off-Road Diesel Performance in Kill Devil Hills. Master mechanic Ryan Walker developed the plan for having his own auto shop over 20 years ago, and today he owns the premium diesel performance powerhouse of the Outer Banks. To have him and his crew take a look under your hood, give him a call today at 252-715-0025 or find him on social media. Juan Cheese Off-Road Diesel Performance, the diesel performance powerhouse of the Outer Banks. All right.
Okay, so this one goes back when I was running the reeling. A fella from my hometown in Daytona Beach named Steve Budd was my mate. We went out on a day when the whole fleet went to the canyon we know as the Point. You've heard me tell a lot of stories about the Point. So we get out there, and we're not catching anything. Omi Tillett, when you used to have a lot of boats out there, would always count the boats. So You're not doing much going, and you wonder why some boats weren't up off Rudy Inlet, why some weren't off, but they're all in that canyon. Number one canyon fishing spot on the whole east coast of the United States, right off our coast.
Okay.
So Omi says, boys, he says, there's 105 boats out here today. I'm like, wow, I mean, I have anything better to do than to count the boats. Although, I don't know. I was in church last night, and I was counting the attendance. So, same kind of thing at Revival.
I guess, yeah, it kind of is.
So, I guess I shouldn't talk. So, we were doing nothing. John Bayless, always there's two kinds of fishermen in the fleet. There's the fleet fishermen that will stay on that canyon and circle all day long. Murphy Creef, an old friend of ours, used to say, Omi's got a stake down there on the bottom, hammered in. He's got a rope tied up to his boat, and all he does is put the boat in gear and let it go in a circle all day long. And by the end of the day, Omi would have 7 or 10 tuna, but I had not the patience for that. Neither did John Bayless. And on this particular day, there had been some rumor of some giant bluefins offshore. They're big ones, 700 pounds and up. So we said, we have nothing to lose. Let's just pick up and steam out there. Maybe we'll come across a tide line and catch some mahi. Let's just get out of this knot of boats. So me and 4 or 5 other boats, Mike Merritt, John Bayless, Dickie Harris, some others, we steamed. We said, we'll go 20 miles, 20 more miles. Not charging the charter anybody more money. We're just going on our own because we wanted to be a scout and not a fleet fisherman. We're going to go out there. So we went out there and we made a little bit less money that day because of the fuel, but we got out there, and when John was the first one to get out there at the 20-mile deadline, drop dead point where we had to stop. We just can't keep going forever. If you keep going too far, you'll fall off the edge.
Yeah.
Like Columbus was worried
Of course.
about. So don't want that to happen.
No.
So we got out there and we set out, and right away there were those there were 500, 600, 700-pound tuna jumping out of the water.
Oh, holy smokes.
Slick, calm, beautiful. I slowed down and looked on my color scope or my fathometer right under the boat. It was knocked out. Looked down in the water. I told the charter, look over the side, because up on the bridge I was looking down, and the water was just this cobalt blue with this neon blue in the middle of it, which was the backs of these big tunas. Enough tuna there to feed the United States in one group, probably. For one day.
Oh, wow.
Just an incredible tonnage of the charter and us were looking at. We had a bait that was dangling from the outrigger straight up and down that we just cranked it up while we steamed the 20 miles. And that thing was just bobbing while we were getting all the big gear out. and a 500-pound tuna skyrocketed on it. Underneath it, comes up so high it hit the outrigger, fell back in the water, and splashed everybody in the boat.
Oh, holy
that
smokes.
got everybody's attention, because you saw him come up out of the water, hit the outrigger, and try to get that bait, fall in the water, splash everybody, and then re-enter that school. We finally got our baits set out, and one by one, boats were hooking up just a single fish. Only allowed one a year. So it was pretty exciting. They were up to 700 pounds. So we couldn't get a bite. We trolled and we trolled and we trolled. We were going to quit at 3, and that would have put us getting in very late, being that far offshore. About 75 miles offshore. So we finally, at 5 minutes to 3, we hooked one of those big ones. We got him on the biggest pole in the boat, which is what we only had 2 baits out. We were like, you're going to hit this one, which is the largest thing we have, an 80 International with 130-pound test line. And we had a group of 6 guys from Ohio, just friends, really nice guys, but all day long, starting from when we were fishing on the point inshore, Captain, can we come up on the bridge? Captain, can we come up on the bridge? And I'm like, that I've had many stories about it. I'm like, fellas, I got to listen. You are working. You're not just playing captain. I got to hear what's said. I got to look at the electronics. I got to watch this and all that. So I said, look, when we get a strike, when we catch a fish, we ain't got a fish. When we catch a fish, one of you can come up at a time. Okay, we understand. No problem. And they still ask me another 2 or 3 times. All right, so we hook up, and we are hooked up to, I'll call it close to a 700-pound tuna. When it struck the bait, it looked like someone had dropped a Volkswagen on top of the bait in the water. That's
holy smokes.
How much water it displaced. Just an incredible, probably one of the most incredible strikes in all of the fishing world. So we're hooked up. We put the strongest guy we can find in the chair. He's in the fighting chair. That's the big middle chair and the biggest one you see on the back of these boats. We put him in a kidney harness, which is a seat, and buckle him to the rod and reel. That way, if his arms get really sore, he can actually let go, and those buckles will hold that rod and reel for him. But the battle is on. It's 3 o'clock. Everybody else is picking up their lines and going home. We're out there by ourselves, single engine boat, 75 miles offshore.
Oh, holy smokes. Single engine.
Yeah, the old reel and the single. Well, she's new, actually, but she had an old motor.
Okay.
A V12 natural. But I didn't care. We were finally hooked up to for even me as a lifetime fisherman, a once-in-a-lifetime fish. So, it's back-breaking work. 4 o'clock comes and goes. 5 o'clock comes and goes. It's getting right at 6 o'clock. It's summertime, so it's still plenty of daylight. But there's an old saying in the fishing fleet, the longer, and this is true of any fishing anywhere, the longer that you fight any fish, the less chance you have of catching him, the more the odds go in the fish's favor. So you always got that in your mind. 3 hours we've been laying here. We can't make... You got what you think is maximum pressure on the drag system, The pole is bent over. It's a thick fiberglass pole with metal roller guides. You know what those are, Justin? The roller guides.
Yes.
Not ring eyes. But
not the ring eyes.
They're raised up a little
Yes.
bit. And we're doing everything we can. But I'm like, I don't really want to be out here till midnight by myself, 75 miles fighting this fish. So I'm thinking about that saying I just told you. I told my mate, I said, Steve, we're not gaining. We got to put a little more pressure on that drag. And so I thought, I'm going to gamble. I'm going to go with that, So Steve goes over, the man has been fighting the fish, doing a great job to be not experienced with that kind of thing. Steve goes over there, and there's a lever drag on the side of those big reels, And I said, I just barely push it forward just a little bit.
Tap.
And maybe that will be the difference that will make or break us, which it turns out it did. But he pushed that drag up. And he was leaning over the rod, looking at what he was doing very carefully. And about 5 seconds went by, the line was crackling off the reel, And when he did, he was right over top of that rod when that line snapped. And when it snapped, it sounded like a shotgun going off in the back of that boat, 75 miles out in the ocean by himself.
Oh, wow.
Boom. And as soon as that happened, I saw him fall to the floor.
And what happened after that? Ooh, I'll tell you, I'm going to let Marty finish this story in just a bit.
The desire for being on the water is what draws people to the Outer Banks. OBX Boat Company in Kill Devil Hills shares that desire with you. The only full-service, Yamaha-authorized dealer on the beach, OBX Boat Company is committed to providing you the best possible boat ownership experience. Their carefully selected brands of center consoles and family-friendly pontoon boats are all powered by ultra-reliable Yamaha motors. They offer excellent financing options as well. To learn more and see their inventory, visit obxboatco.com.
You know, I saw him fall over backwards, throw his hands up over his eyes, and blood was just squirting through his fingers. You know, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I said. I said, ooh. And anyway, when you're the captain of the boat, the way it breaks down, the captain takes the responsibility, the mate does most of the work. That's sort of how it goes. So I got to take responsibility. I'm also the ship's doctor at that point, you know. Never been real good at being the ship's doctor. But anyway, it never bothered me about the throwing up and the seasick. But I don't like seeing people bleed.
Right.
So I left the boat in gear, just idling. And it's no longer attached to that big fish. He probably sank and died. I don't know. But the boat was idling. Nobody's on the bridge, you know. So I climbed down the side of the cabin. I go there, and I'm like, somebody handed him a wash rag or a cloth, and he's holding the whole thing is blood red. I said, I got to look, Steve. I have to look at your eye. So I was quite sure that his eye would no longer be there.
Right.
Know? So anyway, he's down on his knees. He's conscious, and he's holding that thing over his eye. So I said, on three. And he says, okay, 1, 2, 3. Takes that rag off his eye. The next thing I remember, I woke up.
Oh, no.
And I was laying flat on my back on the deck. I had fainted. Right out, dropped right out from being the hero, the captain, the ship's doctor. And the very first thing I saw when I came to, I must have been out for a little while. One guy from Ohio was driving my boat. The guy that kept pestering me about driving my boat. He immediately, heck with the captain, I want to drive the boat.
I want to drive the boat, yeah.
Steve, there are 6 people in the charter. Steve had one person had taken him up. He was sitting on the couch with a wet wash rag over his eye. As for me, the other 4 people were all trying to revive me because they dang sure didn't want the captain dying out to sea 75 miles. They didn't even know which way to get back to the dock. So they had to revive me first. And I saw that guy on the bridge. And I was like, oh my gosh. I checked on Steve. And I said, we'll look at it at the dock. He still had that rag over it. I went up there, and 3.5 hours later, after dark, we got to the dock. An ambulance was waiting for us. We felt like he had tested it a little bit, that he could still see out of his eye. You know how your eye will bleed a lot from you being a sports coach?
Yes.
So they took him to the hospital. They put 7 stitches in that soft part between the eyeball and the eyebrow.
Okay.
And he was back out fishing again the next day. So that's one of those stories where, look, if you're bleeding, get somebody else. Don't call Captain Marty.